All right, I'd like to welcome you to the April DAS meeting where we're featuring the solar eclipse. We have a nice long list of announcements for today, all sorts of exciting things our club is doing. So for the first item on the agenda, do we have any new members who would like to introduce yourselves? Yes, one, yes. There you go. Yep. Absolutely.
Dave Leonard, I live Chad's Ford, and I used to be a member of the one in Valley Forge. I have limited experience with telescope. It's mainly like I had a 6-inch dog, and
I thought it did.
So just getting back into.
Nice, welcome.
Part of it is they're not coming across real loud.
Okay. I guess we all have limited experience, right?
Well, that's true.
I don't know.
Certain amount. We don't have
Everyone has
infinite
infinite experience.
Sure. So don't feel alone. in that. None of us do. Yeah.
No, welcome.
Yeah.
It's in Mount Cuba, you were there. Okay.
Kill Bill.
Do we have any other new members that want to introduce themselves?
Yeah, Robert Tuttle. I joined a couple months ago, and I have a small telescope and took some pictures of the eclipse from my driveway in Newark.
Oh, very exciting. Yeah, very good.
Welcome, Robert.
Welcome.
Thank you.
Do we have any others? The new members? All right, let's get started then. So first item that's really important is the election. Sydney, want to tell us about that?
Good evening, everyone. My name is Sydney, and I'd just like to announce that I received the nominations for, let's start with Secretary Bill McKibben. There you go. And then for Treasurer, Rob Treblecock. For Vice President, Jeff Lawrence. And for President, Rob Lancaster. And actually, this is the very last minute where you can nominate if you feel like you want to nominate yourself or you want to nominate somebody. Going. Yep,
Right.
And with that, I'm closing the nominations for the 2024 elections.
Another controversial election coming up.
I'll be sending ballots from Election Buddy by May 1st. So please don't think it's spam, okay? Thank you.
And then it closes on the 30th.
And it closes on 31st.
Very good. Yeah. All right, very good.
It's an unchallenged ballot, isn't it?
All right. Next thing is the Vernon lecture. For those of you that don't know, that's coming up on Thursday. It's going to be very exciting. Would you like to speak to that real quick?
Just saying that it's this Thursday at Clayton Hall at the University of Delaware. No, yeah, right there. Dave here, he's going to be speaking again. It's usually a very interesting lecture, so please consider coming out.
For those here, there are posters around the building. For those, well, for everyone else, if you go to Mount Cuba's website, it's prominently linked.
Right.
Registration is encouraged. It's free, and it's also not really necessary.
We ask for registration because then we get your email and we let you know about.
Yeah.
Elections, because we
Yeah.
have them, try to have them twice a year, once in the spring, once in the fall.
Always top-notch speakers, so.
Yeah.
Okay. Next item is very important is the dinner meeting. Jeff, you want to speak to that?
Yeah, so our next meeting will be our annual May dinner meeting. Similar format to last year, same venue, same format. Our speaker for that will be a lady from NASA talking about cryovolcanism, so ice volcanoes on some of the in the outer solar system. Really, again, I'm excited to hear the talk because that's something that I don't believe the club has heard about before. Again, the menu is up, the speaker bio is up, the synopsis of the talk is up. Check the focus. There's a 3-page spread that was lovely put together by Mark. Thank you. And there's a link from the focus article to the website where you can register. The other option is if you go to the DAS main page, there's a big banner across the top that will take you to the main page. All of the information that you need about the event is listed, including date, time, location, speaker information, menu, and most importantly, the means of registering. It is still $20 per person. The menu is listed. There is a meal choice, which is basically meat or vegetarian. We welcome and encourage guests, spouses, neighbors, friends, enemies, whoever. It's a very fun event. Again, all the details are on the website, so I don't need to drone on about them. Again, I always like it when we have a good turnout. So please come.
Is this bring your own booze?
No, no. Beer, I'm sorry, soda, soft drinks and water are included in the $20. Beer and wine will be available as a free will donation.
Okay.
Yep. Again, if anyone does not know about the dinner meeting, talk to an officer, or actually, I think 2/3 of the people in this room have been to at least one. So talk to us afterwards and we can fill you in. Or simply put, just sign up and come. It's a lot of fun. It's the best deal in town, especially now with, I was contemplating, as restaurant prices are now 50% to 100% more than they were 2 years ago. I was contemplating, but I was like, you know what? This isn't a fundraiser. We really want people to come. So at $20, you could barely go to McDonald's for that price. And
For the 10th year in a row.
yeah,
That's not bad.
yep.
Good deal.
So come on out. It's a lot of fun.
All right, so on a related note,
Yes.
the June meeting, you
So,
have an announcement.
June meeting is our last meeting, our last general meeting of the year. Our speaker of the season, thank you. Our speaker is John Kennard. The thing is, I am actually going to be on travel that day, and John is coming from quite far away. And we have offered to help him with accommodations, hotel, and some honorarium. Because I'm going to be on travel and not here, I would love for someone to volunteer to be the liaison, for lack of better words. If anyone's willing to help out with John, I will effectively put you in contact with John, and all you'll do is help to coordinate the hotel and the honorarium and any other needs that he has. Actually, Steve Kennard is kind of a follow-up to the last month's meeting, because he's also part of the occultation group, but it's kind of another citizen science type thing, but he's talking more about amateur spectroscopy. So kind of a cool segue from what Roxanne talked about last month. So is there anyone that'd be willing to help me out for the July meeting to coordinate with John? June, thank you, June. And if anyone's being shy, just come up to me after the meeting and let me know you'd be willing to help.
That'd be excellent.
Thank you in advance.
The John meeting.
I know.
Yes, exactly.
Well, 12 months in the year, 26 letters in the alphabet, and 2 of them have to start with J. It's
That's true, that's true.
and they're right next to each other.
And you're ready. Yep. So yes, please volunteer to help out. We definitely appreciate anything anyone can do, most definitely. The book club is next on the list. Mary? Oh, there you go.
Can you hear me?
Yes. Good.
Okay, good. Good evening, everyone. Our next book club meeting will be held not this Thursday, the following Thursday, the 25th, at our regular hours, 7 p.m. via Zoom. And we are absolutely thrilled with the meeting. We will be discussing the globe makers, the curious story of an ancient craft by Peter Bellerby. And the author, Peter Bellerby, will be joining us from Bellerby and Company Globe Makers in London for our discussion. So we're just so delighted that he had agreed to join us. The book is written by Peter, the founder of the company. It's a very unique, bespoke company upholding this very ancient craft. It's amazing to think that there's still a market for these beautiful pieces that they're creating the old-fashioned way. Many of you are makers, so I think you'll identify with Peter, who is also a maker. The book is just beautiful. It's available in different formats, including audio, and it features photography from the skilled craftspeople at the shop, as well as hand-drawn and hand-painted illustrations. because the globes are hand done. So they're works of art. We're also delighted that the meeting will be led by Greg McNiff, who has become just a wonderful member of the DAS Book Club, the DAS, and also serves on the board of directors in New York of the Amateur Astronomers Association of New York. He's very active, very erudite, very well read, and very well spoken. We've also invited members of the Astronomical League and the Amateur Astronomers Association, Greg's group, to join us for a discussion. The Zoom link will be mailed to you. If you have any questions, reach out. Guests are always most welcome. Thank you and good evening.
Very good, thank you. Next thing is the AP SIG, Bill.
Yes, and I'm on the road. The next meeting of the AP SIG will be on May 11th, Saturday. And there'll be an announcement that goes out over the groups.io.
Very good, thank you.
Mhm.
So next thing coming up this weekend, for those of you that don't know, is the Northeast Astronomy Forum, also known as NEAF, where they have all sorts of exhibits and all sorts of things for sale, usually at a discount. They have a nice solar observing field in the middle of the campus. It's pretty cool. There's a lot of interesting things going on. Anybody excited to go? Anybody interested in going this time?
Right.
I see one. Anybody else? Usually we're all very interested. But
It's quite common that DASers will often carpool or caravan up there, so I would encourage, if someone wants to go in and wants to carpool, use the groups.io and find a couple of buddies, because it's a 3-hour drive.
yeah,
So,
and it's a nice 3 hours when you're with friends.
yeah.
And you should note the last time we went, we actually checked out the home Dell antenna.
Yeah,
And it was,
tried to.
tried to.
Yeah.
We had a little trouble, but it was another story and we talked all about it at a previous meeting. It's a lot of fun. Yes,
Yeah.
they have preserved it in a park now, I believe, right? Very cool.
Oh, Supper, New York?
Yeah.
Just outside New York City.
It's right as you leave Jersey and
Yeah.
go onto the New York State Thruway.
Just type in NEAF online, NEAF, and you'll find it pretty quick. There's nothing else with those acronyms, I think. I shouldn't say that.
Yeah.
Don't think. So. All right,
If
next.
you type in astronomy, you'll definitely get it.
True. Next thing is the creamery. So coming up on Friday,
Yep.
we have a Woodside Creamery event. It is a lot of fun. If you bring a telescope, you can get some ice cream for free, and you can show off all sorts of things from the night sky with, colleagues. I think it's supposed to be cloudy, but the ice cream is still good, and you can still share the telescope with the public, even if you can't look at it. So it's definitely worth coming out to.
And just basically for the, I don't know how many years in a row, we're gonna be at Woodside once a month for the entire duration that they're open. I think it's April through October. All the events are on the DAS calendar as well as Woodside's website. I'd say it's cloud or shine. I generally don't go if it's raining, but if it's just cloudy, I'll usually go because, again, you never know how the conditions could change. Plus, the ice cream is always good. So, again, keep an eye on the groups.io for more about that.
Yeah. And Jeff is the organizer of that event, and he'll let you know all about that if there's any changes. Do we have any other upcoming outreach that we need to announce?
Bellevue.
Bellevue's in May. The museum is the museum is May, Bellevue is June.
Did the museum make it on the calendar yet?
I'm not seeing it yet.
Yeah, I don't see the.
Delaware Museum of.
We need to get museum events on the calendar.
So they're definitely on there, but I don't see it. Yep,
Yeah.
we do need to do that. That'd be important. All right, then the next thing coming up is Greg just set up the ball scope. You want to talk about that real quick?
Huh? Oh,
Well, the club is thinning down some of the things that aren't getting a lot of usage in the loaner, group
Collection.
loaner stuff. And one of the things we decided is to put out for, what do we call the
on
bidding?
email silent auction.
It's gonna be a silent auction. It's out here on the table for people to look at. It's a Bushnell copy of the Edmund Astroscan.
You can show it on the website for,
Oh, yeah,
you want to do real quick. Website's already up, isn't it?
Oh, it's on our website. That's
Yeah.
True, that's true. Is it back there? Yeah. It'd be under members.
And this is being shared, right, Rob?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, wait, no,
Ah.
good point.
Well, it's out. You can look at it, and then if you're interested in putting in a bid, that'll.
Keep your eye on the email, and I will be sending out. There it is.
There it is.
Is it actually 4.5? I don't think it is.
Oh,
We'll verify.
We
Yeah,
haven't
we can check
measured
that
it,
out.
but, I don't know.
Good question. Don't know.
Scan was.
The Astroscan is, the Astroscan 4.25, but I thought those were smaller.
Okay.
Okay.
I think that's smaller too.
All right, did we have any other announcements? Because I think that's the last thing on my list. All right, cool. Then I think we're ready for the main program, Jeff.
All right.
Take it away. I'll go get Kim.
Yeah, thank you. I was about to bellow for her, but
Don't forget to share the screen.
yeah. All right, so tonight's program is stories, memories, and photos from a week ago, the big eclipse. First of all, big thanks to all the members. I've gotten feedback from multiple people how enjoyable it was to read all of the tales and see all the photos that were flying around the groups.io. It's exactly why we have that service. So really cool, and glad that our club was able to share an initial sharing of the experiences. We'll delve into them a little bit deeper here tonight. But before we jump, am I sharing, Rob?
Not yet. Wait for the share button. Not yet. Yep.
But before we start with the member talks, I just wanted to kick it off with a few introductory slides. Nothing too much. Oh, why is it? Oh boy.
You can drag it if you want.
Oh,
You got a slideshow. There you go.
Yeah, it was behind the.
okay. First of all, I'm actually just stealing a couple of the things that I thought were really cool that was flying around on the groups.io. This is an image. Did anyone see the eclipse from here? Yeah.
I did.
So, I mean, kind of a cool perspective, really awesome. Another one that I thought was neat is someone put together a little weather map across the path. So, you know, some of us were here. We won't talk about that. A lot of folks were here. Some folks were here. We won't talk about that. Some folks were up here. We'll see that in a bit. But I thought that was pretty cool too. This kind of is almost like a preamble or sets up the rest of the talks tonight. This was the next slide is a variation on the theme. Again, just shows something, I don't know, some weather stuff. And then the eclipse passing over. And then big thanks again to all of the club members that responded with sharing where they got to view the eclipse. So here is a map that shows where, well, here, 58 club members responded to my query as to where they were. Again, big thanks. We're about 135 members in total, so that's a pretty awesome percentage of responses. And 44 of those 58 were actually in the path. And here they were scattered. I believe Diana Metzger is the most westward in Kerrville, Texas. And actually I can cheat because I'm going to click on this and get a better version of it. So yeah, so here is Diana, the most westward in Kerrville, Texas. And then the most eastward, I believe, was Dave Grosky. Nope, it actually might have been Rick Spencer. Rick Spencer barely eked out. Rick Spencer up in Canada. But Dave Grosky gets the award for the most no, Greg Lee. I'm sorry, wait a minute. Where was Dave?
Right.
Vermont.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Got it. So Greg wins the most westward in the United States. Eastward, thank you. Whatever the heck. So yeah, so I mean, we had the path pretty well covered, which was cool. I want to give another special thanks to Bill Hannigan, because he filled in what was actually a kind of a gap in the Midwest. And I believe, Bill, you were roughly in the spot that got the double eclipse, right?
Yes.
Yeah. So that's pretty cool.
2017.
And we did have a good contingent that was local, and Mark Jacobini down in Florida. So
Gets the reward for the more southern, right?
yes, exactly. So I thought that was kind of a cool way to kind of look at it all, to see where everybody was. I mean, if anyone has any more curiosity, I'd be happy to share this in better detail. But with that, we will start off with right here in Greenville, Delaware. And Kim is going to share what was happening at Mount Cuba. And the computer is going crazy. Okay, stop. Now it won't stop doing it.
Everything you tried to do before.
Yeah, of course. Is everyone seeing Kim's presentation online?
Yes.
Kim, take it away.
Okay. Thank you for having me. And if
Yeah.
you don't know me, I'm Kim Green. I'm the secretary and program coordinator here at Mount Cuba. So we had about 48 to 50 people come here the day of the eclipse, which was pretty cool. Jim Kirshen actually came out and set up a telescope for us. You want me to sit down? Would that be
Nope.
better?
I gotta pin you.
Oh.
I don't think you're visible.
There we go. Thank you, Rob.
Make sure. and preserve it for
So,
posterity.
Jim Kirshen was here, Bud Howard was here, Ben Maruka, if any of you've ever met Ben, was here. And then we had a bunch of grad students that came to help. We had food here for everybody. We had Sunny D. We had Eclipse cupcakes. We had crescent chicken salad sandwiches. Got to play around a little bit. But Jim brought a telescope. I don't know the exact name. He told me it was a funnel scope. Okay. So he set out on the front lawn, and everybody sort of gathered around him the whole time, because after a while, everybody was on the roof. Their heads were starting to get a little tired of looking up. But if you see, Jim had the prime spot. Everybody was out there with him. There's a good shot of him. Our grad students were having a blast trying to play with his toys out there, because they'd never seen it before. Now that's what it looked like when it first started with his telescope. So this was actually taken by one of the guests. She's actually a young lady that's about to turn 16 that's actually going to intern here this summer. She was very excited. Her and her parents were here. That was a group upstairs on the roof, just as the clouds parted for us to actually see something. So we were clear all day until about 10 minutes before we were supposed to get our 88%. And then the clouds just rolled in, but then we got like 3 big gaps. So then everybody was able to see. So they were excited. Actually, this blonde haired lady right there is actually an intern at Chris Kuhn's office. His PR secretary was standing next to her. They came the last eclipse in 2017. They wanted to come again. There's our colander picture. We went and I bought a bunch of colanders at the dollar store, and we set them up all over the roof. And the kids were out there having a blast, going around showing everybody. As a matter of fact, there's the pinhole cameras are there that Bud made for us to have, so they were using those. That was the only picture I was able to take of the eclipse. But then this was the young lady I was telling you, intern. She took that through the telescope upstairs.
Is that Hal? Yeah, it's Hal. Yeah.
Open the gates.
Open this
Okay.
Pod door.
She put her iPhone up to the 4-inch and got that picture. And then that's the picture we got up on the roof right when we were able to get our full 88%. And then she as well was up on the roof. They got a kick over that. They just didn't realize that you would be able to do that. So they were very excited We only had 3 kids here during the eclipse. Everybody else was adults. They all came over on their lunch break and had some fun. So, but yeah, so that's what we did here at Mount Cuba.
Awesome.
Everyone enjoyed it. We actually got 3 new members and 2 interns out of that day. So
Wow.
Awesome.
it was very worthwhile to be there.
We should have more of these full eclipses.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm gonna get right on that. I'm gonna call Mother Nature and set it up. But
Cool.
well, thank you for having
Thank
me.
you, Kim.
Thank you.
And in no particular order, other than we've got one person presenting online. Bill, would you like to go ahead and do your pitch?
Sure.
Bill, all yours when you are ready.
Yep.
Oh, and while Bill's so actually Bill is joining us from Illinois. He really wanted to try to wait until the traffic really died down until he came back up. So he's really waiting it out, which is good move. Good move. Oh, I'm sorry. One quick little thing. Again, major thanks. We actually have 9 people that are giving talks tonight, which is awesome. But I would really urge if people can keep it to 5-10 minutes at the most.
Okay, Bill, you've used up all your time.
Okay, here we go.
All right, Bill, take it away.
So this is my eclipse experience. I use the same site for both the 2017 and the 2024 eclipses, which is the SIU, or Southern Illinois University dark site at Carbondale, Illinois. That's where the 2 paths came close to intersecting. It's not exactly where they intersected. Close enough. So in terms of weather, the sky was clear except for some cirrus clouds, mostly along the horizon. Temperatures in the mid-70s with a nice breeze. Beautiful day, really. Travel was delayed by about an hour, which left me without enough time to set up. So I was really rushing through the setup. Back in 2017, my group arrived without any traffic problem on the way in. And then in 2024, the return trip took about twice as long as normal and longer than in 2017. So traffic was definitely worse this time. Here's a view of the site, 180-degree view to the toward the where telescopes are set up, and then to the south where the view of the eclipse is. So in 2017, there was a big crowd here. They had a busload of people. They had cars parked all the way along the north side. All the pads were filled. I don't know what they did, but they must have encouraged people to go somewhere else because not very many people showed up here. Maybe 20 or 25 people. Okay, some elements in my setup, the Tech Apo 140 refractor here with a field flattener and a DSLR, table for staging the equipment, Windows PC running the program Set and See, which determines when the exposure should be taken and or actually makes them happen according to your desires at the right time. And then an awning. At various times there was some concern about rain. Eventually it just became a shade. And then whiteboard for shadows and shadow bands. The wind was so high though that we had to basically keep a chair on it most of the time. And while we saw shadow bands in 2017, there were none to see this time around. So here are some, I'm just going to go through and show you some photos. So here's Marianne watching the partial eclipse with her glasses on. I'm setting up there. That's my brother Michael. He joined us for the adventure. This is Marianne's favorite picture. I've got my head under a towel along with a box. The hand control for the mount was designed so that no one would ever complain that the hand control was too bright at a dark sky site. And the net result is you can't see it in this during the daylight without putting it in a dark place like this. So here's the first Bailey's beads shot just before totality began. I'm going to zoom in just a bit here so you can see. So just a little bit of bulge at different places along the line here would be the Bailey's beads. Not a particularly great example, but this is the best one from that moment in the eclipse. And then some prominences. Here's the best Bailey's beads shot just after the end of totality. And I'm going to first move to a crop and then zoom in some so you can see this. So we've got the beads quite obvious here. And, excuse me, nice loop prominence there. Another prominence up there. And of course, because the moon was significantly larger than the sun this time around, it was like 5.5% bigger than the diameter of the sun, where in 2017, it was only 3%. The prominences on the opposite side are obscured when the prominences on this side are fully exposed. So you can't get all the prominences visible at the same time, at least not totally visible.
That's a great photo.
Well, thank you. Okay, and unfortunately, well, and this is the sun after the end of the eclipse. So I want to show there were of course a couple of pretty small sunspots there. Okay. I have other pictures in the works, but I haven't had time to work them up. So unfortunately, I'm not going to show you the full corona like I did last time.
Something to look forward to.
That'll come later.
Yeah.
Okay, so here's a wide field cell phone shot of totality. Everybody in my group felt that the corona was much brighter this time than in 2017. And when I get back to Delaware, I'll check the data from 2017 and compare it to this data and see if that's really true. So there's Venus, you've got the sun, and Jupiter's a little higher up. Okay, here's a view looking to the east during totality. So the more people had showed up than in the pictures I showed you earlier, which were actually taken after the eclipse and after some people left. Okay. So I mentioned about shadow bands. I even had a camera set up on high speed mode to take 16 shots in very quick succession to grab shadow bands, but we didn't see them this time.
Explain a shadow band, please.
Well, shadow bands are a phenomenon that appears during just a little bit ahead of when you would normally see Bailey's beads at the beginning and a little past the Bailey's beads at the end of an eclipse. And it's a result of the fact, well, you know, the exact explanation isn't really known, but it shows on pavement, say concrete, or on a white surface as a series of light and dark bands that will hold still for a moment and then rush and then move off in another direction and change shape. It's a phenomenon that's only seen during total lunar eclipses or in association with them. Now, it might be with a fine enough annular eclipse that you'd be able to see them, but I'm not too sure about that. So this next is a series of shots that were taken over the 10 seconds that straddled the end of totality. So somewhere in here, totality occurs, but some of the shots are before and some are after. So it's just our general scene. You can see it's clearly totality here. There's no shadows on the ground. The next shot, it's time for the filters to go back on, and you can see a bit of a shadow from the counterweight arm of the telescope showing up on the concrete right here. I can zoom in just to help people see that. There, so there's the shadow of the counterweight arm, that's the counterweight arm. So even at the point where you're still able to take pictures with a direct view from the telescope or even look at it, you can pick up a shadow. And then, of course, from there, it just gets brighter and brighter. You might notice it looks like there are a lot of storm clouds up here in the northeast, but that's actually blue sky that's darkened by the shadow of the eclipse. And that's our group, my brother Michael, my wife Mary Ann, and myself. That's it. Hopefully that didn't go over 5 minutes. Thanks. Any questions?
All
Nope.
right,
Okay.
let's keep rolling. Rob, do you want to go? And let's see, we'll
Pin.
redo the pin
Yep.
and then go back to this and we'll go to Rob and
Yes. Perfect.
you can take it from there.
Oh, I thought he changed the pin just now.
No, it's added to.
Oh, you're both pinned. It keeps their window. Okay.
I need to do this actually.
Yeah, stand wherever you like. I'll get it aimed up for you.
Okay, cool. All right, so what I'm going to talk about is our trip for the solar eclipse. So we actually saw a lot of interesting things, not just the eclipse, because I think it's quite important that you enjoy many things, as I'll talk about in a few moments. When we were planning for the eclipse, we spent a lot of time looking at the maps and the clouds and stuff like that. We wanted to get to a place that was nice and warm in April because we were tired of the cold. We wanted to go somewhere nice with good chance of clear skies, like most likely places to be sunny, a place we hadn't been, and a place with fun things to do in the area. So that was kind of our intent. We looked at this map of the various cloud patterns typical for April in the United States. And I mean, 50% chance, right, is the best you could do, basically. And so we were looking at this map and we were kind of leaning toward Texas because it was kind of low on that map, but also because we were interested in going because it was good temperatures and fun things to do there. So we were zeroing in on this region. It's called the Texas Hill Country. This is the Balcones, if I said that right, escarpment. It's kind of raised up a little higher than the surrounding terrain, which we thought would be good because the clouds would likely go down here and not bother us up there. Fortunately, that's not 100% true. It didn't work out, but that was our plan. Originally, we were going to go to Kerrville, which is right here, and we had already booked our Airbnb, set it all up, and then they canceled on us a couple months before the eclipse. We're not sure why they canceled on us, but yes, they canceled on us.
They got a higher rate.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yep.
Price to somebody else, that's why they cancel that.
And I was suspicious of that, actually, when I originally did. But here's the thing. They claimed it was because they got pregnant, we're going to have a kid. And I actually went back a few times and checked, and it was still listed, like with nobody booked it. So maybe they're telling the truth.
Yeah, right.
But basically what that led to me doing was in February, I think it was, frantically searching and searching. If you guys were here at a couple of the astronomy workshops, I was spending lots of time just searching for new places. I ended up finding one that was dramatically cheaper than the original place that I gotten. It was in Blanco, which is right here, so not too far from Kerrville. And I found out when I was doing all that frantic searching that that place was actually close to where a bunch of other DAS members were gathering near Johnson City. So we ended up meeting up with them, as we'll see. It is very important. I got to emphasize this for everyone. If you're planning to go see an eclipse, plan to do everything else. With the eclipse, make it a bonus. Because if you get clouds, if you get nasty experience, you still have fun.
Yes.
And so that's the key point. Yeah, we'll get to that. So we visited Texas Hill Country. We stayed on Horseshoe Bend, a beautiful place with a nice view of the lake for almost a week. It was very nice. And that place was a lot cheaper than our place in Kerrville was. We hiked in many state parks, Kings Lake and Enchanted Rock, Pedernales Falls and the Guadalupe River. It was a lot of fun. We've also visited a bunch of caves, including an actual caving adventure with hard hats and stuff like that deep into the cave. So yeah, and we spent a couple of days hanging out with DAS friends at their place that they got. So it was really fun. We saw a lot of interesting wildlife and flowers. Texas Hill Country is absolutely beautiful this time of the year, with all these bluebells and all these other flowers just bursting with color. It was everywhere.
The wildflowers just blew my mind. All the highways were lined with it.
Yeah, it was awesome.
Bluebonnets, by the way.
Did I say it wrong?
Bluebonnets.
Bonnets, not bluebells. Got it.
Texan.
Blue bonnets, yes. But it was absolutely beautiful. So I would recommend going to check that out if you never have. We hiked in a lot of interesting parks, like I said. As you can see, this was Pedernales Falls, which actually isn't like a waterfall. It's like a series of cascading carvings in the water. It was pretty cool. I really liked exploring that because unlike a waterfall where you just stand up and look at it, we were able to walk through the little like slot canyons and stuff like that all around this. It was very cool, I will say. This is a granite outcropping. There's only a few of those in the United States. It's called Enchanted Rock. It's kind of like down there in Georgia. What was that called? Stone Mountain. We visited that a number of years ago. This is essentially the same thing, but it doesn't have the carvings on the side, right? And it was kind of like walking on the moon, and it was incredibly, incredibly windy. That part was not like walking on the moon.
You saying that from experience?
Yes.
Having done both.
Absolutely. Absolutely. But yeah, we hiked in a number of state parks and had a very good time for a good week before the eclipse. Here was the caving adventures we were doing. We toured a couple of caves, you know, as tourists on a tour, but we also went deep into a cave. It was Longhorn Caverns, where we donned the hard hats and did the exploring through the narrow spaces. So it was a lot of fun and we had a good time doing that. Now, leading up to the eclipse, we were very nervously checking the weather. As you can see, the different hours the night before when I was checking all the maps and making plans. I had an escape plan that if our particular location near Johnson City didn't work out, there was a place a little further up. I think it was Mason. Yeah, right here. It was a little further up where it was very likely to be clear. And I think it ended up being clearer than where we were. But it looked like there was still a pretty good chance that our spot here at Johnson City wouldn't be in the clouds. So yeah, I was very nervously checking the weather, but ultimately I just said, I'm just going to go with my original plan. Because I really didn't want to go like an hour and a half and not have a chair to sit on, and not have a table to use, and have to buy all your food and pay like $60 for parking and still might get clouded out. I don't know. That just didn't sound good to me. So here, this was in Blanco just before the eclipse. We found this when we were walking to dinner, and I was like, let's take a photo. And that's what that looks like. So we gathered on the eclipse day. As you can see, here's the motley crew established to view that eclipse. We might still see something.
You want to highlight the couple of members that are in there?
Oh, sure. So of course, there's all sorts of people here. Jeff, you know the full list.
I
Maybe
do.
You should.
So yeah, okay.
I know half.
Top on the railing, that's my father and mother flanking their friend Sarah Gibson. Standing on the ground on the right is Sarah's husband, Mark, followed by, I forget what that guy's name, oh, Jeff. DAS member Keith Given, he's not been as active the past couple of years, but he's been a member for maybe about 10 years. Rob Lancaster, his wife, Lindsay, Bill McKibben and his wife, and then former DAS member Emeritus, Rich LeMay and his wife, Jackie Coates. Yeah, they were together about 20 years, and 2 years ago got married. So our house, which is in Johnson City, was right in the path. So as Rob was mentioning, it was quite nice. In fact, many of us were enjoying the eclipse from the Adirondack chairs in the foreground. So even if it was cloudy, it was at least comfortable.
Yep.
Adirondack chairs in Texas.
I know. I was
Oh,
going to
yeah.
say that. Exactly.
But it worked well, actually. Now, I will say that leading up to the eclipse, it actually did get sunny just before the eclipse happened. So, of course, we started to put on our eye protection, you know, getting ready. And then somebody told us, we actually had to look up. So then we looked up at the sky. As you can see here. Now I have a video here. This is put together from a number of photos that I took during the eclipse. I had a plan to use the intervalometer in the camera leading up to the eclipse and make a nice movie with all the frames in the same spot. And then I had a plan to use my script to capture it during the eclipse. Neither one of those plans worked because the exposure times were all wrong due to the clouds. So I ended up having to do the whole thing by hand. Every single one of these pictures was clicked by me, unfortunately. But it ended up working out decently. I had to do a lot of work processing because all the exposure times were different, but I ended up getting a decent sequence.
And while the clouds were certainly not welcome, they did add some drama to the experience, so.
Yeah, they made it look interesting, I will say. Give it a second. We actually didn't get much of the end because it completely clouded over.
Yeah.
But we actually got, during the eclipse, a nice clear view of the corona, which was very cool. And we saw the prominences. I was looking at them in binoculars, and so that was very nice.
Way better than we were expecting.
Yeah, no, it was definitely good. I didn't really clearly see the diamond ring. Jeff said he did though, but I didn't see.
Yeah, I think I caught a catch of it. I caught it at the end of totality,
Yeah,
maybe.
but I might have been futzing with my camera at the time, but
Yeah.
yeah, I didn't notice that, unfortunately. And then I have a couple photos that I processed more completely. Here is one of the sun. I stacked 6 images together, enhanced it a little bit. And the sunspots actually have quite a bit of detail. It was a lot of fun. We also have some light spots over here, and there's one even over there. I will say these sunspots were great for focusing because I could look at the sunspot, zoom way in, and if it looked out of focus, I could keep tweaking it until it looked right. So definitely appreciated that. Next time, be sure to order the sunspot again. So here are the photos I got during totality, during those brief moments when it was good. Unfortunately, I was clicking by hand and most of my photos got blurred because I had to click by hand. I found out afterwards that Bill McKibben actually had a cable release sitting on the table right over there. I did not even know about. I didn't even realize he wasn't using it and I didn't even know it was, which is actually kind of funny. You'll see it in the picture in a minute. I didn't even realize it. I looked at the picture. But here's some photos that came out decently before and after the eclipse. The reddish is because that had the filter on at that time, and these whitish ones were without that. So it changed the color balance a little bit. I kind of like both in a way. So here's a bunch of people during the eclipse observing in different manners. As you can see, people with like me with their special filters that they created at the DS workshop leading up to it. Here you got my camera that I used to capture those pictures with the filter I made at the workshop, and various people observing the sky and the general view of the overall scene. So here you can see our colander experiments. We actually use 2 different ones to get different effects. And by the way, I think this is the very thing that I didn't even realize was there. And I took this before the eclipse. It didn't even dawn on me. And I thought it was funny later on when we were eating dinner. My phone was telling me the eclipse will be ending soon. So, kind of interesting. 7:25. Yes. Yeah.
Cool.
But that's it.
Thank you, Rob. Next up, Dave Broski. And I'll let you want to start with the PowerPoint? You got it. When you're ready for the movie, I can jump back over and get it cooking for you.
Okay, so as everybody's had so far, I mean, eclipses are not just about the eclipse, it's about the whole trip and the experience and your friends and everything else like that. So in 2017, I went down to South Carolina with Diana, and we were told at the time, I remember, I'm crazy, it's going to be cloudy, it was clear. So I was going to follow the same
Reverse psychology.
Yeah, reverse psychology. So here's what they said. And I remember like in 2017, the next thing we said was, when's the next one? 2024. So 2023 comes up and everybody's going like, where are you going to go for the eclipse? And I remember on Tuesdays, these guys, everybody's going, I'm going to Texas, I'm going to Texas, I'm going to Texas. because that's what they said. Well, guess what? Dave's going to Vermont. But it's not gonna be cloudy. It's gonna be totally cloudy. I'm crazy. I'm going to Vermont. The other reason why I went to Vermont, my son was gonna be there with his wife, and one of my very good friends, and was a member of this Springfield Telescope Makers, is gonna be there with his wife, and we're all gonna meet up. So
That's just as important.
that's just as important. So I figured even if it was gonna be cloudy, at least I get to see them and everybody be great. So off to Vermont I go. So I'm driving up, the New York Thruway and everything, and I'm watching spring slowly disappear. And when I got to Vermont, guess what? There's snow on the ground. It is February in Vermont right now. There's not a bud on the trees. There was snow on the ground. I got up at 5 o'clock in the morning on Monday to go to make my drive, and there was frost all over my car, and it was 22. It was like 25 degrees.
We were in the swimming pool.
Yeah, you guys, but I had a chance. They said, guess what? It's going to be clear. And I was going to see the eclipse, and that's what counted.
That's awesome.
So I always stay at this place called the Fullerton Inn because I go to Stellafane all the time. It's in Chester, Vermont. And I was going to follow the same procedure I did in 2017, which is I'm about an hour and a half outside of Totality. The room rate there was great. It's $125 a night. I got free breakfast. I really enjoy it. It's a typical Vermont inn. You got that whole experience of being in Vermont Inn. If you ever watch the Bob Newhart show, it's just like, but there's no Darryl there, but it's very nice. It's a very nice place to stay. So again, the game plan was I got up on Monday morning at 5 o'clock, got dressed, got in the car, cleaned the car up. So I was going to drive for about an hour and a half, 2 hours to Middlebury College. And Middlebury College is this nice old college in Vermont where my buddy teaches economics. And we're going to meet there, and then we're going to go to get farther into the eclipse path. And if you want to go to Middlebury College, it's a liberal arts college, and it only costs you $83,000 a year to live.
Oh, wow.
Right. So, just let you know. So here I go. Okay. I'm going to go to Waltham, Vermont. I'm going to get almost about 2 minutes of Totality. Waltham is the smallest town in Vermont. It's barely on the map. I mean, it's just, if my buddy Matt planned this all out, where we're going to go and everything, because we figured, well, it's this little tiny place we're going to go. We're not going to be bothered, not going to be 100 people there. We can enjoy the eclipse by ourselves. So that's where we were. These are stock pictures taken from the internet. That was the municipal building. There wasn't a leaf on the tree at the time or anything else like that. And these are these little side roads down there. And if Matt if I lost my GPS in my car or my phone, I'd still be driving around the back roads of Vermont trying to get home because I don't know where the hell we were, but I was just following him. So when we pulled in there was actually another car there, and we pulled in, and a couple other people showed up at the time a little bit later. So this is a picture of the shadows during the partial phase, showing how sharp they were. Okay, that's I'm set up. I had a 90 millimeter Mac on a go-to mount, and we had 2 C stars. Matt had his C star, I had my C star, and I can't recommend enough. Get yourself a C star if you want to do this. It made the eclipse just so wonderful to watch. I set the thing up, I let it go. I was able to watch the eclipse visually, go from the telescope to binoculars to visual, and I let that thing do its thing, and it worked great. And Matt had it's behind me, you can't see, but he had a lunt. So we knew where all the prominences were going to be during Totality. So there's another picture of us all set up. That's his wife, Melanie, there. And these 2 people here, this young man here, he was from New York City. He showed up, and he had his friend with him. And she was from Woodstock, New York. And I said to her, boy, you look like you come from Woodstock. Yeah. And she said, I'll take that as a compliment. And they had just drove up as a whim. And they were driving by, and all of a sudden the brakes back up. They came in, they asked, what's going on. They wanted to view the eclipse, and we told them everything about how the eclipse was. And it was really nice to have them too, because it made the experience even better, trying to educate, people. And they were oohing and ahhing and everything else like that. There was another couple that showed up with their kids from Philadelphia. They'd taken the day off, brought their kids up to see the eclipse. But, it was a wonderful time. And the sky was actually, it looks a little bit hazy there, but it actually cleared up for Totality. We had these pretty decent skies. So here's what it looked like in my C star. Like I said, I just let the thing go. I got a bunch of pictures, but this is, basically the progression through the C stars, through the beginning of the eclipse.
With the filter on at this
with the
point, right?
filter on at this time, I just let it go. Here's a
Wow.
close up. And you can see how the Terminator on the moon is not, is, you know, not smooth, it's rough. And the Sea Star, like you said, it gave really nice detail. So here's the end of the eclipse, okay? Now, and I'll show you a movie now that the Sea Star took. So Jeff, if
Just
we
hit us, yeah, I
can
can just,
escape,
yeah.
and I can just get out of this, right? And I should be able to go to the
Yep.
movie.
Here you go.
And if you said you wanted to jump,
I'm gonna go to 2x mode here. Make it go a little quicker, and I'm gonna go to about there and let it rock and roll.
and it's rolling.
It's rolling, so, and I don't know if you want to shut the lights off. See a little better. Come on, you can do it. So that's with the filter on. Like I said, I'd let the Sea Star do its thing. So now I was enjoying this all visually, so I could all take it in, have to worry about the camera, and then just set it up and let it rock and roll.
Whoa,
There it is.
boom.
Hold on, I took the filter off, put it back on. Hold on, here we go. Bingo.
Yeah.
You can see that.
That's a prominence.
There's the problem, there's the Bailey speeds. Wow. Now where we were again, we only had 2 minutes, so it went up there, but it's gonna show up down here where it comes out of eclipse.
Any reason you know why it disappears at 11 o'clock and reappears at 7 o'clock for you?
Just where the, we're not on the center line.
All right.
We're nowhere near,
For me, it was 11 o'clock and 6 o'clock.
yeah, so we're, wherever you were on the relationship to the center line. Oh,
Cool.
I mean, this prominence was just amazing visually,
Yeah.
and you can see that it's not red, it's pink, and people don't understand that, in hydrogen alpha scope, you're looking at only red light, but prominence is actually made up of a bunch of different emission lines, and that's why you get the pink, and there you go. There you got the diamond ring again. And then I put the filter on.
Cool.
Yeah, but again, I can't stress enough. When you got an automated system like this, it just made the experience so much better because I didn't have to worry about any of this stuff. I just set the thing up and enjoyed it. So, that's all I got, but like
Cool.
I said.
Thanks, Dave. Sheila, are you ready? Me. And I will, I'll just let you, yeah.
Yeah, I don't know where that is, but you can help me.
Okay, how about this? You talk, I'll manipulate.
Okay, you manipulate, yeah. Okay, so this one was actually my third total solar eclipse.
Wow.
Umbrophile.
Pardon me?
You're an umbrophile.
Well, and the first one was just dumb luck. I happened to be living in the shadow of Mount Hood in Oregon at about 2,000 feet up. And it was February 26th, 1979. A couple of feet of snow on the ground. Only time I've ever seen shadow bands. And it was dizzying is the only word I can think of. Dave, I was going to ask you if you got to see him with the snow on the ground. But
We did not see him in Vermont, but we did see him in South Carolina.
see, and I didn't in South Carolina. Okay, yeah, that first one was the only one. And since it was just vast fields of white snow, I'm telling you, you felt like you were going to fall over. The motion is chaotic. It's indescribably amazing. So
I was on a lake in Maine and they had snow the week before. We weren't sure if the roadways were going to be clear.
wow, yeah.
But I was in Maine because the weather predictions had flipped and my son lives in southern Maine. So this lake had a foot of snow on it. It was still frozen, and the shadow bands were amazing.
Yeah.
All that big wide open expanse.
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah. And when you're standing sort of in the middle of them, it really is, makes you, I felt like I was gonna fall down. I still remember after all this time, that feeling of those racing, wheeling bands. It's absolutely incredible. And you know, the second one was, of course, 2017. And that one, I went with my son and now daughter-in-law, then his girlfriend. And we were in South Carolina on Lake Marion. So it just this vast, vast lake and vast thousands of acres park. And I know you all remember, if you were there, how just unbearably hot and humid it was. But what a delightful experience, except for the drive. And I'm sure you all remember that very well too, no matter where you were. It was during that eclipse, there were virtually no sunspots. I saw no sunspots during that eclipse. It was pretty close to. Was there one? Okay. Pretty minimal. And as we were saying, to be able to share that with family and friends is extraordinary. And I was lucky enough to do so then, and to do so this past eclipse. My plan was to go, we went to Pittsburgh first and stayed overnight and messed around in Pittsburgh, so that we'd have the ability to find the easiest unclouded place within a couple of hours time, which we did. My original plan was to go to Erie, but all my weather was looking like it was going to be cloudy enough that I decided not to do that. And I ended up going to Vermilion, Ohio, which, like, really, why would you not go to a place called Vermilion? So that's where we ended up, on the Vermilion River, strangely enough, in a beautiful state park, uncrowded, no traffic problems whatsoever. Bathrooms, water, and we brought a picnic lunch again with my younger son and daughter-in-law. And it was, again, extraordinary. One thing that I thought about with the eclipse is that there are colors that have no name during an eclipse. That pearly white of the corona, there's no word for that. There's no word for that color. The color of the prominences is, you might say it's pink, but that's not pink. That's a light color of light that we just don't have words for. And there's no word for the color of the darkness. It's somehow, there's some indigo in there, there's some violet in there, there's some blue in there. It's just a different sort of darkness. So there's three things that there are no words for during a total solar eclipse. I didn't travel with my older son and daughter-in-law because they have a almost 6-year-old and a 3-month-old, and it would just have been too much of a problem. But my older son did send me a picture from where he was living, obviously, which is in Aston, Pennsylvania. So obviously it was not of the total solar eclipse. So
You ready?
Share that. Yep. Go ahead.
That's great.
Isn't it great? I could not resist showing that. It's the food eclipse, ladies and gentlemen.
Nice.
So that's it.
Yeah, right.
Small cheese that turns green avocado.
So anyway,
Thank you, Sheila. Fred?
One thing I'll notice too is when the eclipse actually happens, when you get to town, it's a light switch. It's not a dimming.
Yeah.
It's like, boom, you're in darkness.
So keeping track now, having seen two totals,
When my wife bought the, she has one too. When my wife bought the shirt, there was no check mark in the circle for the recent one. So she bought a some fabric paint and painted it in there. It's for the match.
Completed it.
Yes. That's not a picture I took. I pulled it off the internet. I searched for Total Solar Eclipse April 8th, 2024 Texas photo. And that's what I found, which most closely matches what I ended up seeing for about 30 seconds. The story getting to that will unfold. We did this similar tour at the 2017 eclipse on the Bob Berman special interest tours. It was 7 days. So I'm going to take you through 7 days in about 5 minutes, maybe a minute a day. Yeah, Bob Berman, if you don't know, he's one of the contributing editors to Astronomy Magazine. He's a real personal guy, funny, very engaging, always got a story, makes all these crazy physics comparisons with life and people. And I wish I could remember what he said because it's just hilarious, some of the stuff he says. Anyway, you just have to be there to appreciate it, which is why my wife and I went and did this, even though we only saw 30 seconds of the eclipse. Anyway, so this is what the weather looked like when we landed in Houston. And everybody's there were several other people on the plane going to the eclipse too. Going, oh, it's going to be beautiful weather. And I'm going,
Yeah.
You don't know.
Yeah.
Because it always looked pretty bad. I mean, you and I were texting back and forth with the screenshots of the weather of the cloud patterns. So while in Houston, we visited the Johnson Space Center. And that's not the.
That's very important.
And in the Space Center, we have the Orion capsule, we have the International Space Station, we have the Mars rover lander rather, and we have the lunar lander. They're all spread out in the hallway there. Has anyone been to the Space Center?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
What day were you there?
April 5th, I think it was, 5th or 6th.
Okay, I was there the 4th and the start of the 5th.
Oh, right, okay, we made it close to each other. This is probably one of the most impressive things that I ever saw, the Saturn V rocket building here, but the thing is just huge. It carried the 75-ton Apollo spacecraft, and then it also carried, not at the same time, the 120-ton Skylab way back in its day. It was the largest rocket in its time.
I mean, the largest rocket up until SLS, right?
Up until the latest
Yeah.
largest rocket, yes. It's not bent, it's just how the panorama camera took it. All these pictures were taken with my
Telephone.
trusty Motorola cell phone. This is a recreation, a remodeling of the original Space Center Control Center.
Complete with ashtrays.
Complete with ashtrays and cigarette butts in there too.
Yeah. Wow.
But they're fake. I had more pictures, but they're fake cigarette butts. We can get up close to them. They look like candy, actually. This was cool, but it's a mock-up. This was the astronaut training center. Yes. And that's what they do there. They make giant leaps. They all start there. This guy, you got to get him for a meeting, for a dinner meeting or something.
Okay.
Tony Antonelli, he commanded the space shuttle, I think on 3 missions. Funny guy, really engaging. He got some of the toughest questions I ever heard from an audience, and they just bounced off him like crazy. He came back with a humorous remark. I mean, some of this crazy stuff that they asked, like, how did you feel when you took your first bowel movement in space?
Oh, geez.
You know,
So of course you need to know that.
How many were in the tour group, Fred?
62.
Yes,
Oh, wow.
Okay,
Okay.
there were 2 buses. And as a matter of fact, when they got overbooked, we stayed, since we were in group 1, we got the nice place to stay at before the eclipse. The others stayed like 30 minutes away and had to bus them in to the vineyard then. So we went to San Antonio to this place, little mission that was pretty famous. A lot of people died there, but they cleaned up all the bodies and now tourists go there. This is the inside of it. It's very small.
Yeah.
And this is a scale model that's inside. And of all people, it's narrated, they have a recording, it's narrated, and they highlight lights, different spots about where action took place during the battle and who died where. And who does the narration? Phil Collins. He's a big Alamo buff. Who'd have thunk? So, yeah, I mean, the detail is really amazing there.
Wow. Didn't Jim Morris like go there, pee on the wall?
He might have. He didn't talk about that. We went on to a place called the Salt Lake Barbecue.
So did we.
Did you?
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, I heard all these rumors about how great this place is.
Not.
Texas
Support
Roadhouse has nothing to worry about. Really not. The ribs are much better at Texas Roadhouse, full bone ribs at Texas Roadhouse. I have no association with them other than the fact that I go there to eat. The potatoes were lukewarm. The baked beans were
Flavorless.
bland. Yes, yeah, no language on the face. Anyway, but it was interesting to see the guys cook.
What day were you there?
6th, 7th, or 8th.
God, what day did we go?
No, wouldn't be. Yeah, no, but probably the 7th.
Probably the 6th.
We went Saturday.
Yeah, that'd be the 6th.
I can tell you, it's like a.
I mean, that'd just be too funny.
Well, they probably like toned it down for you East Coast.
Right.
Yeah,
right.
No, this place is just huge.
Monstrous.
Yeah, I mean, the place was crowded like would not believe.
We'll compare notes later, Fred.
Yeah.
Kitchen is impressive to look at.
Yeah, it is, yeah. And the service was good. We stayed at Villa Faenza in Florence, Texas, which is pretty close to the center line. Beautiful place. This was our back patio from our room. And this is the view out our back patio from the room. They were the chairs they set up for the eclipse, looking the wrong way. They had a lot up this way. So we moved our patio chairs out just about over here to see the eclipse.
Minor detail.
And tell me what's wrong with this chess set setup.
Oh.
Anybody play chess here? Got it, right? Both. I had to tell them that. They went out and corrected them. This is the clouds about 5 minutes before the eclipse was to start. Yeah, and see these little openings here and there.
Yep.
That's what we waited for.
Yep.
We're trying to where's the sun at? Oh, it's lining up there. And then there it is. That's the eclipse. On my cell phone, of course, not. And this spot here, it lasted long enough for the spot to come over. I was able to catch the second diamond ring for about the last 30 seconds of totality. I got the second diamond ring there. Then everything got weird. Somebody, one of Bob Berman's comments was that someone told him once that because he gives his lecture the day of totality about how you need to be quiet. You're not going to find him anywhere. If you're with someone who has a tendency to talk during a movie, just tell them to shut up and to keep quiet for at least 4 minutes when this thing starts, when the darkness really comes. And he said, a good friend of his said that he described totality as nature's most sacred moment. I think that's right. Because once it happens, it's just glorious. I mean, everything just stops. The crickets come out, the birds stop chirping, the cows there stop mooing. And
It's a little cold.
yeah, it got a little chilly, and it was just so magical. The preceding was brought to you by the Fred and Pat team of touring, and sponsored the entire thing there. Thank you so much.
All right, let's see, Jeff. All right.
You're good.
I'm Jeff.
I love it.
How about a different Jeff? You want to, I'll just let you run it.
We just, well, here.
I'll let you take it.
Yeah, so, back about 6 months ago in the AP SIG meeting, there was an episode where we were talking about presentation, I think from Bill or somebody, about, what to think about for an eclipse. And that was very worthwhile. I was born in Indiana. I grew up in Indiana. And I know the weather a bit. We ended up going to the north side of Indianapolis, my wife and I, where my sister lives in an apartment building in Carmel. So it was about 3.5 minutes of totality, rather than where I grew up in Bloomington, which would have been 4 minutes, but it wasn't worth driving an hour for 30 seconds of totality. The reason I did not pick Texas is because I also spent 6 years in Texas, 2 of which were in the hill country,
Oh, cool.
at that little place called Fort Hood at the time. And April is worse than chances, as you guys found out. Only you got the best part. You didn't get the big thunderstorms,
Mhm.
which, as you know, April, they don't care whether it's April, they just rain on you. So anyway, we went to Indianapolis. We stayed with my sister in an apartment building. We at first scoped out, she's in a 4-story apartment building, and had this beautiful rooftop patio place. And I took my Sea Star, which is what I used, like Dave was talking about, which I've only had 2 months. Okay, so again, I set it up, and let it go, basically. I took it up the day before, beautiful sunny day, not a cloud in the sky, set it down, took some pics of the sun, and then I happened to stand on the planking. And every time you stood on the planking, it shook the Sea Star. So they were gonna have 100 people up there. So that didn't work. Then I thought about the parking garage behind it, but it was mostly on a slant and it was harder to level the Sea Star. So we ended up going outside and a half a block away where there's a big open area that's about to become an apartment building and just set it down with our 2 chairs on a flat spot. So what I did was, I'm hoping this will work. We open this, I can just move on. Yeah, so I started out just before totality. This is unlike Dave's filter, you use the filter.
I use the bottom filter.
Yeah, but this is the filter that comes with the Sea Star. As you can see, there's that larger spot. There's the smaller ones over here. And what I simply did is use my watch, and every 6 minutes I took a photo. Right, because I wanted to watch what was going on. I didn't want to spend the whole time, and you can't really set it up, at least so far. I haven't been able to figure out how to set it up to do an interval of about 6 to 10 minutes, but maybe there's a way. So this is starting beforehand. So that's why it's more orange than the other solar filters. So. All right, here it comes. And these are roughly at 6-minute intervals. And now the spot's going to disappear.
Wasn't it cool to watch the sunspot getting?
Yeah.
consumed by the-
Yeah, it was cool because you could watch it
Yeah.
through glasses, and then you could just look at the app and see what was happening. You run a Sea Star through your phone. Okay.
In Vermont, my buddy Matt had a really big iPad. And we had it live streaming as it was going, and people were coming up and seeing it, and made it really nice.
We're going to get close to totality here. All right. And then I got it. This. Yeah, and I haven't taken the filter off yet. Isn't that cool? I think it's cool. That's just me. All right, so now what I did when we hit totality is I took 4 pictures 15 seconds apart. And then I went to a video, which I'll show you after I go through after the totality. So this is that last shot, I simply took the filter off and took another picture. I only brought 2 of them, but they're basically all the same. So this is now on the other side of totality. All right, here's the spot. Oh, by the way, it auto focuses. You can focus it yourself, but it literally most of the time does better than you, at least that I can do when I try to manually focus it. Now, right about here, somebody walked up and asked a question, so I missed the last time. All right, but here is my movie. Now, I'm going to tell you to watch this part at about 25 seconds. There's an anomaly that shows up. So I'm just going to sit here quietly. For 17 seconds now. You can just see. I probably could zoom it in a minute.
But
Oh,
that was like,
eclipse. The eclipse was eclipsed.
back at the
So-
US transit.
I'm still trying to figure out why it violated the moon's airspace, but you know. Anyway, I'm gonna just let this go. It's worth it for 2 minutes. We get toward the end, we'll see why. But what I thought was cool was you've got, you know, the prominence of this is a larger area here than down here. And you can see as the moon is moving in this direction, this gets fainter and then we'll get, but what you're seeing right now is the sea star is tracking. And when the sun begins to move or anything begins to move out of the screen, it just auto corrects and brings it back into the center.
So maybe would I akin that more to almost the guiding than?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well,
okay,
it's auto, it's.
Centering.
Yeah, it auto centers, if you tell it.
cool.
Yeah, well, you have to tell it to maintain the center, but
Mhm.
if as it begins to go out, it'll just correct it. So we got about another minute. I'm just gonna let it go.
Oh, while it's running, and I hope you don't mind the commentary. So Dave and Jeff have both given great pitches for the Sea Star. The club has actually just purchased one,
Oh, good.
which is also good for nighttime photography. So stay tuned for more information about that.
When we were in Vermont, I forgot to say, there were 2 guys with paragliding
Oh,
up in
yeah.
the sky watching the eclipse.
Oh, wow.
Well, I very much enjoyed this, just.
Yeah.
I don't know, what do you want to call them, tendrils? I don't know what we would call them. Corona? Yeah, I know, but it's like waves.
Yeah.
All right, so here we come. We're gonna come up and we're gonna see the diamond ring effect here in about another 10 seconds or so. Here, it's gonna recorrect. There it is. And there's the prominences. Here, here. Okay. So, let's see. I took a few, this is actually a video after totality. I had a real quick video of just a few seconds after I put the filter back on. And it's not really anything, so. But here we are. These are stills I took out of the video. And there we are.
No. That's cool.
I actually have the tail number off that plane. My niece's husband had an app that could identify planes flying over at the time, so
Uh-huh.
I'm trying to figure out if there's a way to contact this guy.
Hey, I got your photo.
There's an
Anyway.
FAA website where you can look up the tail number and see who owns it.
Ah, is there? Okay, I'll figure it out. I do have the tail number, or at least I think it's the tail number. It's the right plane in the right place. Anyway,
Cool.
basically you set it up. It looked just like the ones Dave had in his picture on the ground. You set it up. It takes about 2 or 3 minutes to connect and to find the sun, or a little longer to find the deep sky object maybe, but that's it. And then you just start shooting. So anyway, here we go.
Thanks, Jeff. And Tom. Do you want your PowerPoint first?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, threw this together last night, so I didn't try and use any fancy templates on the PowerPoint, so. My trip, was not planned until probably a year ago. I wasn't even thinking of going, and I thought, at my age, why not? Let's give it a try. So my sister lives in Morgantown, West Virginia, which is where you go, where Sheila's Pittsburgh, and you just go south until you hit the West Virginia line, then you jump a couple jumps and you're in Morgantown. And so I did exactly the same thing with Sheila. I talked to my sister and said, hey, any thoughts about going on seeing the eclipse totality? And she goes, that's not even on my radar. I think that was last November. It was on mine. So the idea was my wife and I went to her place, visited with my sister and brother-in-law. I only have one sister. And for the same reason that Sheila did. I could do anything from Erie to Western Ohio, anywhere along there, depending upon weather. And I was watching weather from the 10-day forecast on, and was sort of thinking Erie, because that's only 3 hours away. But the weather forecast, I said, let's find something in Western Ohio. So my brother-in-law is a retired Air Force, and he likes military aircraft, and there happened to be a location that was in Western Ohio at an airport, and it had a small museum, aircraft museum. So I said, sure, let's do that. And he really appreciated that. So our destination was either Western Ohio or the Erie area, and we chose, this is just south of downtown Columbus. And traffic was green. There was no, I took what you guys said about, oh, plan for traffic. So we left at 8 o'clock in the morning for a 4-hour drive, and it was, there was one place where there was an accident. They were just starting to put up signs that said delay ahead. There was an exit. We got off. We went through this nice little small Ohio town, back on since Route 40 parallels. It was great.
We mirrored your drive. We went out to Morgantown, up to Washington, and then across the Wheeling, et cetera. And when we got to Columbus, we started seeing highway signs, digital signs.
Right.
You cannot stop, stand.
No parking on the berm or the median. Yeah. So Urbana Grimes Field is where we ended up, and wanted to get there a little early. Skies were mostly clear. We just had that high cirrus that people have already talked about. This fellow was a newfound friend from Wheeling. He got there about the same time I did. He talked a lot. He's a park ranger in one of the Wheeling parks. And he said that he used to belong to a club in that area, but after COVID, it sort of fell apart and they haven't gotten back to this. So he had a number of scopes. He brought 2 cameras and the scope you see on the right to allow other people to have a view, closer up view. I have a video tripod that I used with a video head on it. I found out that I could flip things around, get rid of the head, and it had a screw that was the same size as the Sea Star. So by the way, that's about 4 weeks old now. I got it about two or 3 weeks before on Dave saying, you got to get one of these things. $500. I haven't bought anything lately, so yeah, we'll go for it. Got to. So my plan was similar to Dan, Don, to Jeff. Sorry, was to basically set it up and let it go. So what I did was, my plan was to start it with 1 second time lapse. So the whole thing, I set it up, got it running, and that's Grimes Field during the day. And this is Grimes Field during totality. Pretty much the same picture.
Street lights came on.
Yeah. Street lights came on. I have 1 or 2 pictures of my wife and I with the sun in the background, and you see shadows on us, but the shadows are actually from the lights. And the other thing that I noticed that I didn't hear anybody talk about, the fact that my eyes were adjusting to the darkness as it got darker.
Yeah.
I did not realize how dark it was until I looked down at my phone and I said, I can see the picture. I can't usually see that when the sun's like that.
Yes.
So that's southwest. This is looking west. There was a restaurant there. We had wide open view. That's looking north-northeast. In the background is Route 68 that goes north-south from Springfield up. And that's looking southeast. So these are a little larger pictures because I did my wife stitched these a bunch. I did a panorama with my phone, which I discovered a slightly wide angle, and it was hard to stitch because the angles were a little different. So that's a 360 view of totality.
Did you see the shadow coming towards you before totality?
A little bit, yeah. We were mostly looking up rather than.
Vermont, and saw it just, you could see it way off in the distance because of the mountains, it's coming over the mountains, it's pretty cool.
So I don't think I have a picture, but one of the interesting things was, since that part of Ohio is on major flyway, you could see the jet contrails. And there was at least one jet contrail that deviated south and then deviated back to its original north.
Oh.
I have a feeling they wanted to show the passengers the spot on the ground moving. At first, I thought they were going to try and fly through it, but that would only take seconds at 700 miles an hour. So one of the things that I did was I left the filter on the whole time. I didn't want to bother with taking it off and that. So I left it on the whole time. And just so as I was looking through the time-lapse video, I discovered that I actually had some pictures of Bailey's beads in that prominence in the lower. And it was just as the totality was ending. And so there's a couple, there's one with some beads and a better one with some beads. So then we'll take a look at what I did. I'm going to show you the short version. So this is speeded up during that portion, and then I slow down around totality. You'll notice that there's a flare around it, and I think that's because the Sea Star was auto exposure. So on the way out, I set it at a fixed exposure so that you didn't have so much of that flaring. And it was also auto centering. Part of the reason for the jerkiness is there was wind. And you'll notice right about here, the wind starts to die down as it cools down. And some flares from clouds, cirrus clouds going across. Now we're slowing down again as we get closer to the end. We had about 3 minutes and 15 seconds where I was. So we end, there is a prominence at the bottom. Some beads, and then back to regular speed, which is about 20 seconds. And now the Bailey speeds and coming back. Notice it's at 6 o'clock position. It ended around 10 or 11 o'clock position. We were east of the center line. And so about this point, I'm now switching to fixed exposure. Still a little hot as the rest of it goes by. And now we're speeding up again. I didn't quite catch the beginning. Actually, it started before I set up. And then I realized, oh, some people are saying they're seeing a bit of a cookie. I'm like, oh, guess I better let it run, start it up. So we stayed to the very end. About half the folks left before that. And then we packed up and left and got some dinner outside of Columbus, Ohio, and then got home about 10:30 at night. And then the next day we got up and my wife and I drove back. So it was a lot of fun. Hey, Tom. I think there were 3 or 4 of us that had Sea Stars, and we all picked different things.
Yes, yeah, no, that's cool. Ryan.
I think we all bought it because we saw Dave's.
And I have nothing to do with the company.
And I'll let you, I'm not sure what you got in here.
I can play around.
Cool.
With my computer. I'm actually sort of going towards the end here. I think my pictures are going to look kind of the same. So maybe I'll be real quick with the photos, but this was my first totality. So maybe instead, I know a lot of people here have seen a whole bunch, including having checklists on your clothing. I'll share some of my first timer observations, which is the first thing that I thought of was, more than 3 decades, I thought I sort of knew what the sky was up to. Like it has certain modes, blue, that's common, sunrise, sunset, cloudy. But for like 3.5 minutes, it had a whole new thing, like a whole new trick. that I don't even know if it compares to those others. And it's, my reaction during totality was actually, I started giggling and laughing a little bit. I don't know why, but I think it was something about learning that the sky does a trick that I had never seen before. It's a totally new thing. So I really don't think this will be my last though. I'm already trying to figure out how to go to Spain and Australia in a couple of years. from now.
You know what, in 3 years, there's, the totality will run smack dab right through Luxor, Egypt.
Yeah.
Imagine.
I've got some time on that, Sheila, so hold that thought.
The stuff that died.
Yeah.
The missiles coming in.
Yeah, right. That's.
Like a lot of people here, I originally was going to Texas, but I canceled that 2 days beforehand to go to upstate New York, just because the weather looked more favorable. So, like so many people have said, there were high cirrus clouds, but those really didn't block very much at all.
We're in upstate New York.
Plattsburgh, which is on Lake Champlain. I looked for that sea monster that they told me would be there, but I didn't see it.
Nessie, yes. Oh, no, that's Scott.
So one of the local guys, he said like, oh yeah, but it's probably about as real as Bigfoot. And I don't know about you, like I know crazy people. So I didn't know this guy. And I was like, does he mean 100% real or 0%? He doesn't think real either. But he was at like a sciencey thing. It's an eclipse. So I figured he probably means it's fake, but I don't know.
In Portland, Maine, there's a museum called the Cryptobiology Museum.
Oh,
And
geez.
it's about all of those Bigfoot, Nessie, and all of them.
I love me some Bigfoot stuff. I don't think it's real, but I wish it were. I think it would be so cool. So, yeah, I'll just share some photos now. This is just a DSLR with a moderately priced telephoto lens, not necessarily something that you would consider for
That looks cool. What lane? What was it?
600 millimeters.
Okay, yeah.
My setup looks a lot like the picture that Rob showed in his. That it looked like the 150 to 600 zoom lens. Yeah, okay. So, I'll turn it into a movie theater because I think I kind of like that better. This is about like 1 second before totality. So just like one Mississippi later, and we were in totality. I still had glasses on and couldn't see anything, but my camera was just clicking away.
Was it a script running the camera?
It was an intervalometer.
Oh, that's all, okay.
So yeah, just every 1 second I told it to take a picture, just a little remote plugged into the side. The good thing about the cirrus clouds is I think it made it easier to see the shadow coming, because at 25,000 feet, seeing that there, like, the sky darkness was very obvious. I don't know if that would be as obvious if the sky were clear, but I think the cirrus clouds made that actually maybe a little bit more dramatic as the shadow rolled in. So this is maybe if the high clouds did anything to ruin my observations, it's probably they're robbing me of some details sort of out here. But I was pretty happy with the view overall.
Was this auto exposure?
No, everything was manually
Okay.
exposed. Oh, and you know what? I should thank Bill Hannigan for that, or at the astrophotography special interest group. He shared some good resources with us. Let us know what the exposures are going to be so we could plan for all of that beforehand. And in fact, there were some people on the internet giving bad advice. I think people who maybe didn't have much eclipse experience, but just wanted to put
Get their
popular
opinion.
stuff out there, just get the views. So some people probably like missed their photos because they just took in bad advice from the internet. But definitely thanks to Bill for sharing really good resources so that I could plan for all of this. I actually sort of like rehearsed the night before in the hotel and had a little checklist. So like I figured I'd be too crazy in the middle of it all to like figure stuff out. So I had a little checklist 2 minutes before. I just like got in all the settings and then just let the intervalometer take over. So I didn't actually have to do very much. Yep, that's my Corona, and then here's my favorite one.
Wow, the contrast is amazing.
That is.
Yeah, I got everyone's favorite prominence there, and like everyone's been saying, just it was a little bright pink spot. Like it was just so obvious that that was going to be a star player in everyone's photos. And then some daily beads action there, and then one last thing that I did is put the whole event together.
That's a
in one
composite,
thing.
isn't it?
You could, maybe, I don't know.
That's cool. That's a nice collage, yeah, whatever you call it.
Yeah, 10 equally spaced kind of just increments there to show the whole thing. So
awesome.
Going to New York compared to Texas, it robbed me of 1 minute of totality. I think Texas.
Well, you still got more than we did.
Yeah,
we got two. We ended up getting 2 minutes.
Although, so I guess I'll close with my fun fact, which is the longest totality that has ever been observed was 74 minutes in 1973 when a scientifically equipped Concorde airplane was modified to fly at Mach 2, chasing the shadow. And I'm jealous. Yeah, I think that's about it from me.
Ryan, thank you.
Nothing like standing out in the wide open.
All right. So I think I got everybody, correct? All right. Well, again, thanks to all of our speakers tonight. I had a few parting comments, and Ryan and Sheila both kind of gave a good segue. If anyone that didn't go to the eclipse has their appetite whet, or if anyone went to the eclipse and wants more, bear with me here. Seen that. Upcoming, everyone's talking about the eclipse in 2044, 20 years from now, but I don't know. I'm not good with geography, but yeah, it's technically in the United States, but if you're willing,
we'll be right there.
yeah, but if you're willing to wait one more year, 2045, we have an eclipse that's kind of like the one from 2017, a little bit south, but covering a good stretch of the United States. So 2045. That feels a long time away. If anyone's a little impatient, there's a couple of rather interesting ones. Here's actually the next 10 years of eclipses. I've highlighted the totals. So number 4, 2 years from now, 2026, comes down through the eastern coast of Greenland and then scoots across Spain. Really intriguing. The only issue is it will be a late in the day and totality will only be 10 degrees above the horizon. So take that into consideration. And it's a minute and a half of totality.
You can catch it in Iceland.
Yes, Iceland. Yeah, it cuts through a little bit of Iceland. I believe it actually does touch Reykjavik. But it's probably a similar issue. It's going to be later in the day and lower in the horizon. But yeah. Wait another year. Yeah. Wait another year, and there's a total eclipse that skirts the north coast of Africa and cuts through Egypt, and then well, I won't embarrass myself with my geographical ignorance. I don't know the details on that one. Again, do your own homework and research. And then 1 year later, 2028, is another pretty cool one that cuts through Australia and then New Zealand. Australia, certain parts having very, very, very low probability of cloud cover, and all 3 of these being pretty cool places to visit. So if you can't wait 20 years, you can wait 2, 3, or 4 years, but got to get your passport ready for those. So take it into consideration. Again, I want to thank everyone for sharing their stories, sharing their photos, sharing their locations. I was beyond tickled with getting this awesome ability to put all this map together. So thank you to everybody. And again, final special thanks to all of our speakers for tonight. And Diana has brought snacks. So if you want to continue to share some eclipse stories, continue in the library.